My name is Peter Meredith, and this is my presentation. My Bible verse is John chapter 15, beginning with verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vineyard keeper. Every branch in me that does not produce fruit, he removes, and he prunes every branch that produces fruit, so that it will produce more fruit. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I in you. Just as the branch is unable to produce fruit by itself unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. The one who remains in me and I in him produces much fruit, because you can do nothing without me. My Father is glorified by this, that you produce much fruit and prove to be my disciples. Now I'll give my poem, The House by the Side of the Road. There are hermit souls that live withdrawn in the place of their self-content. There are souls like stars that dwell apart in a fellowless firmament. There are pioneer souls that blaze their paths where highways never ran. But let me live by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Let me live in a house by the side of the road where the race of men go by. The men who are good, the men who are bad, as good or bad as I. I would not sit in the scorner's seat or hurl the cynic's ban. Let me live in a house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. I know there are brook-laden meadows ahead and mountains of wearisome height, that the road stretches on through the long afternoon and carries away into night. But still I rejoice as the travelers rejoice, and weep with the strangers that moan. Let me live in a house by the side of the road, like a man who dwells alone. Let me live in a house by the side of the road, by the side of the highway life.
That's great. That was pretty good.
That was terrible.
All right, give us your
I
presentation.
sang verses half of verse
Peter,
one. And
Peter.
Let's just hear your presentation. It's a beautiful poem, and you did a good job on part of it.
No, I didn't.
Peter, this is all.
Doing great.
This is terrible.
We're not doing another take.
Okay. This is my presentation on thermodynamics. So,
I lied. We're doing another
I need
take.
my water.
Not a whole take, just, we can just cut the first half and the second half if we have to.
Okay, now,
on that horse topic,
how do
I'm
you...
going to tell you about that. Because now I have a great idea right now,
Okay,
but I can't
we're
tell
going
you.
back to
But
this.
they're in a rush, like it's.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay, turn around.
Turn
and
around. I don't
start.
want to get your butt.
Give an intro to your presentation so Randy can cut out everything we just did.
Well, I don't remember what it was.
You just have to say, now I'm going to tell you about thermodynamics.
Well, no, because I don't remember what I was going to say.
Say delta H is
Okay,
enthalpy.
this is called life. You just
Then start
make
spouting
it
words
up.
like
We're
stoichiometry,
not doing
chemical
a take
equations,
five. We're not waiting till next
CH3OH,
week.
acid plus base equals salt plus water. Just like start spouting different things that we learned in chemistry
You
class. It
practiced
does
it
not
2
have to make
days
any
ago.
sense at all.
Oh, come on,
I
yes, it
gave
does
it
have to
from
make
long
sense,
ago.
but
Go ahead. Just do it.
Apparently that's not good enough.
Just do it. You got this.
Now I'm going to talk about thermodynamics. Here we have a question. The complete combustion of methyl alcohol is used to power some experimental cars. What is the change in H of this reaction? Now, change in H stands for the change in enthalpy, which is another word used for the change in energy, basically. So, since we know that this is a complete combustion, we take the chemical, add oxygen, and we get CO2 and H2O. This is that problem right here. But before we can find out how much energy is released, we must balance the equation, having an equal number of atoms on each side. So this is done for us here. Now, you might remember from physics class when you were taught the difference between potential and kinetic energy. Potential is energy that is stored, and kinetic energy is energy in motion. Now, in chemistry, we have a similar concept, but we think of potential energy as the energy stored in chemical bonds, and the kinetic energy as heat released from a reaction. So, to find out how much energy is released, we must write out all of the molecules on each side of the equation. Then we calculate how much energy is in each of these bonds. After we've done that, we subtract the reaction from, we subtract the product from the reactant. So it has for us here all of the energy added up on the reactant side, subtracted by all of the energy on the product side. What we have left is a loss in 1,286 kilojoules, which means that this reaction released that amount of energy. Now I'm going to give my presentation on the Latin case system. Unlike English, Latin is an inflected language, which means that the meaning of the word changes based on its ending. For nouns, the Latin has a case system. There are 4 declensions in the Latin, and each of these cases will change based on what declension they're in, but for now we will just stick with the first declension. There are 6 cases: the nominative, which is the subject, the genitive, which shows possession, the dative, which is the indirect object, accusative, which is the direct object, the ablative, which tells by, with, from, on, or in, and the vocative, which is spoken. So let's take a look at how this would play out. We have our noun, stella stellae, which means star. We know from its genitive ending, ae, that it is a first declension feminine noun. Then we take away the ae and add all of our endings for the different cases, both singular and plural. This changes the meaning of the word for how you want to use it. If you wanted to say, the star is shining, you would use this form, stella. If you wanted to say, the light of the star is shining, you would use this form, stellae. Thank you.